Hello everyone, and welcome to Catgirl Teaches You Calculus. My name is AcousticKitty, or AK, and today we're going to be going over three basic derivative rules: the power rule, the product rule, and the quotient rule. Now, you may be wondering, what about the chain rule? I'm going to be going over that in a separate video because it will require you to know all of these in advance. I also have the expectation that if you're watching this video, you already know how to take a derivative with the definition of a derivative. So if you don't know that, I recommend that you learn that first, and if you already know that, let's get started using these three rules. We're first going to be going over the power rule. Basically, the formula for the power rule is f prime of x equals nx to the power of n minus 1. So pretty simple, right? All you're going to be doing is taking this number in the exponent, dropping it down in front of the x, and getting this exponent, 3, and subtracting 1 from it. So let's do that. F prime of x equals 3x, because we dropped the 3 in front of the x. Sorry, that was a little bit messy. And then we'll be taking 3, which is n, minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So 3x squared is our answer. That's pretty easy, right? And it's the exact same thing for negative exponents as well. So say we have negative 4. Negative 4 is our n. You're going to drop that in front, and you're going to subtract 1 from negative 4. Easy, right? Okay. So say we wanted to take the second derivative of our initial f of x function. So that would be f double prime of x. How would we do that? We're going to be doing the exact same thing, actually. So we're going to be taking our 2, dropping it down, and subtracting 1 for the exponent. But what do we do with this 3 over here? What do we do with that? That's our coefficient, so we're just going to multiply the 2 to the coefficient. So that'll be 2 times 3x, and then 2 minus 1 equals 1, of course. So we don't have to write anything there. 2 times 3x is going to equal 6x, and that is our answer. Okay, that was pretty simple. Let's move on to something slightly more complicated. In my opinion, the only reason that the product rule and the quotient rule are more difficult is because they get a lot messier a lot quicker. For the product rule, which we're seeing here right now, we're going to be using the formula f prime of x equals g of x times h prime of x plus g prime of x, times h of x. As you can see, this formula is a lot longer, which means that our derivative is going to get a lot messier. So always remember to double check your work and make sure that you have everything right, the signs, the numbers, whatever. So given the formula, taking the derivative of our initial function is pretty simple. All we have to do is assign g of x and an h of x. Okay, so let's go through this problem. F prime of x equals g of x. G of x is going to be equal to x squared plus 1 in this problem, and then we're going to multiply that by h prime of x. H prime of x in this problem is going to be equal to 1. You should be able to use the power rule to figure this out, because x to the first power, you're going to drop down the 1, x to the 0th power is going to be 1, so 1 times 1 equals 1, and of course the constant at the end, it becomes 0 because there's no x there. So yeah. And we're going to do the exact same thing for g prime of x. So we have x squared plus 1. 1 is a coefficient, or 1 is a constant. We get rid of that. We drop down the 2, x to the first power, because 2 minus 1 is 1, so that becomes 2x. And then we multiply that by h of x. You may have noticed that there's a lot of side work to do with this, and how I kind of talked myself through it instead of writing it down. If you're still uncomfortable with the power rule, I highly recommend writing it down first, because for me, it's kind of become second nature. I can do it in my head, and I can do it in my head with a lot of confidence, especially when it's kind of like baby numbers, like x squared, x, you know. But if you still feel uncomfortable with it, I highly recommend to do that work on the side. But when it becomes second nature, it is a lot quicker to just not write it down and to just plug it into the equation and go. So honestly, we could leave it like this, or we could simplify. For the sake of this video, I'm going to simplify. So x squared times 1 is x squared plus, or x squared plus 1 times 1 is x squared plus 1. And we're gonna add that to 2x, x minus 5. So we can just distribute, and 2x squared minus 10x. And we're just gonna merge these together, put everything in order, so that becomes 3x squared minus 10x plus 1. Easy schmeezy, right? You're going to be doing this process whether this is 3 terms, 4 terms, 5 terms, 1 term. As long as you're multiplying something, you take these basic steps, essentially. You're not going to get any surprises. Okay? Okay. Finally, we have the quotient rule. Probably the messiest rule, probably the most of a butt to get through. But my calculus teacher taught me this very beautiful rhyme that helps me figure it out every single time. And that was not it. Low d high minus high d low square the bottom, and off you go. Okay, so I cleaned up the board a little bit just to make a little bit more space for this. Let's go through the problem. F prime of x equals low x squared times the derivative of the top, d high, which is 4 minus high, 4x minus 1, times the derivative of the denominator, which is low, 2x. We're going to square the bottom, which is x squared squared. And off we go. Off we go to simplification. Technically, if your teacher says it's okay to end without simplifying, this is acceptable. I've had answers like that have been accepted by my teacher, but just always make sure to read the instructions. If it says simplify, simplify. So let's do that really quickly. X squared times 4, 4x squared, minus 4x minus 1 times 2x. Let's distribute that. So that becomes 8x squared minus 2x over x to the 4th. And then finally, remember to distribute the negative sign. So 4x squared minus 8x squared plus 2x over x to the 4th. And we can combine these, and that becomes negative 4x squared plus 2x over x to the 4th. You can simplify this further by breaking up these fractions. I'm just going to leave it good enough. But there we go! So that was the power, product, and quotient rules. I hope this video taught you something, and if it didn't, I'm very sorry. On the other hand, remember that this video isn't going to do you any good unless you practice, 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 practice. For some of you, it might do you some good, like if you're just good at winging it. Personally, I'm not, and that has cost me dearly. Anyway, Yeah, I'm not a calculus teacher. Surprise. Surprise, surprise, surprise. But I do know how to take a mean derivative. I do know how to take a mean derivative.